Get up and get out. Get out. Get out.
I have a question for you.
Say Christ is Lord. Say Christ is Lord. Say it. You say Christ is Lord. Get out. Get out. Christ is Lord.
Hello and welcome in to another episode of Offensively Accurate, hosted by yours truly, Alice Thug. And we have a lot of moving things happening today. I'm going to be quick, but I'll start off with a few announcements. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. Nice to see you, Eric Julian. Let me start with this. The first thing I want to address actually is for anyone listening, if you are a member or a paying member. I've made multiple posts now. I am going to respond to somebody who actually responded to it, but I need ideas from you guys of what you guys would like to see for member content. Already have an idea of doing behind the scenes and some things like that, but we'll leave it at that. I would like your guys' ideas for what to do for members' content, especially for those who are obviously paying for it. I would like to know what your guys' ideas are, and even if you're not paying for it, if you have an idea out there that you think would be cool, you would like to see, please definitely let me know. Beyond that, we have a new animation for some of the drops. I'm going to start working in some more drops throughout the show. You guys will see very, very shortly. Also nice to see you in 1989. I do appreciate that. The suit is a little big, but it fits well, and I like it. And from there, we have kind of some major movements happening for the channel. The first would be that I have now committed myself to a posting schedule, and that posting schedule is something like this. It will be one video, one produced video, and one stream every weekday, Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. EST. That is going to be my newfound goal, is to make myself work around the clock 24/7 because I want to make this work. Not only for myself, obviously, but to move and push the mission. The movement, if you would have it. So that is what we have in store for the channel. In terms of news today, we have some major back-breaking stories, if you will. We have probably the lead story of the day, which is all of these ridiculous comments coming from Donald Trump as he visited and addressed the Knesset, however you pronounce that, in Israel to celebrate the beginning of the peace deal there in Israel. The Hamas hostages were released as there were celebrations all around Israel, but we got some insane quotes from Donald Trump, and you'll just have to stick around to see it. It is unbelievable what he said. As it pertains to himself, Miriam Adelson, his daughter, there is a lot there. Now, moving on from that, though, we have Zohran Mamdani. And Zohran Mamdani is in the news because he was caught with illegal foreign donations going to his campaign, his mayoral campaign specifically. And I'm going to talk about why I think that ultimately doesn't matter, and I find it to be very hypocritical in the big picture. And then the featured story of today is actually a very sad and dark story, but hopefully one that is going to be retributive and be a good ending. And that is going to be Aaron Spencer. The story of Aaron Spencer, the man who is running for sheriff despite murder charges. So with that, everybody, make sure you smash the like button. Make sure you're subscribed if you have not subscribed already, and share the show with your friends. And with that, we're going to get into the community submission. This is today's community submission. So the community submission today actually came in from House, I believe, our very own House AI. And that is the story of Aaron Spencer, which is becoming a lot bigger of a story than what was previously expected. Now, I'm kind of actually surprised that it went under the radar for as long as it did. But the story goes something along the lines of this. Aaron Spencer had announced that he is going to be running for sheriff there in Lenoka County. And Lenoka County is in Arkansas, but his announcement for sheriff isn't the news story there. The news story is the fact that he is actually, while running and starting this campaign, he is facing murder charges because he handled business from somebody who was stalking and doing things with his daughter. This is becoming a major news inflection point because the expectation that the normal kind of PC culture would basically say, if you're facing any kind of charge, no matter if you think it was warranted, yada, yada, you shouldn't run for office. But the opposing side of that is throughout history, it has been men who has taken justice into their own hands who ultimately have these upward trajectories into being great kings or great leaders, if you will, men of positions of authority because they chose and they showed that they could do it without having to be in the body of authority to enact it in the first place. And I'm sure you guys know many good examples from that. And so it's kind of a positive development, but the more of the story is actually the fact of why he did it or why he felt like he had to do what he did, which was, again, taking the life of a 67-year-old man named Michael Fosler. And Michael Fosler is a 67-year-old, and that is who Aaron Spencer found in a vehicle in 2024 with his 14-year-old daughter, to where he not only called 911 to report her missing when he knew she wasn't in the house, but he literally left the house because he had a suspicion of where she was. Well, why does he have this suspicion? Well, that's because Michael Fosler was previously facing multiple charges and still was at the time of his untimely death. He was facing over 43 charges, all related to the same girl, all under the category of some form of sexual assault or possession of child abuse materials. 43 charges. 43 charges, and he was out on bond, out on bail. He was just walking around. That obviously is insane. But again, not shocking to anybody who is paying attention to anything that is going on currently. So like I had said, he initially had reported her missing. So Aaron Spencer reports her missing, and this is around about 1 a.m. He calls 911, and this is on October 8th of 2024. Funny enough, a day after the announcement of Project Esther. But he was awakened by the dog barking. The dog barking alerted him, and he checked on his daughter immediately. And when he checked and he saw that she wasn't there, that's when he said in his head he knew it was probably Michael Fosler who had done it. And the reason why is because this guy had been previously harassing, stalking, and trying to do things to this guy's then 13-year-old, but now 14-year-old daughter. So he was correct. It turns out she was with Michael Fosler. He actually catches them. Now, it's unclear from some of the unsealed documents here, but there's a bit more to get into with that. But what we would know from the documents that were unsealed was that he chased the vehicle. He chased the vehicle and then stopped it in his own vehicle. I'm assuming he either swung around, got in front of it, he got them off the road somehow. And when he does, he immediately gets out of the car and he opens fire. He opens fire not because he simply sees Michael Fosler there with the girl, but he opens fire. And as it's written in some of these case documents, is because as the daughter tried leaving once the vehicle was stopped, Michael Fosler actually reached and pulled his daughter back into the vehicle. It was at that moment that Aaron Spencer decided he had no choice. He was no longer willing to allow that to happen anymore. So, as many people would probably suspect, this is actually in line with how I would imagine many people feel in terms of the rampant kind of degeneracy, the rampant kind of open pedophilic tendencies we see. And this is marked by, I don't know how many nude and naked and gay pride parades that you see all over the country. And it's getting to a limit where a lot of people seemingly are unwilling to take it. Now, I would imagine many people probably have some nuanced takes on this, obviously, seeing how he went above and beyond what you would call self-defense. And so that will get hashed out in court. But I think this is a strong case that touches upon what actually is justice in this country. And it seems we are across the aisle disagreeing constantly over what actually justice would be. Now, in this scenario, I would consider this actually justice. And I would say that the reason why this Aaron Spencer enacted justice was because the justice system failed him. But to top it off, instead of anything actually occurring to Michael Fosler, now Aaron Spencer, the father who had to do what he said he had no choice, but he had to do, is now facing murder charges. And that in a conundrum pisses me off even more. But to continue further down the story, he immediately actually, as soon as he fires on Michael Fosler, the report and some of the case filings actually detail that Fosler was saying things like, fuck you, F you. There was actually a bit of a spat, if you will, of physicality, of physical nature. And that's when Aaron Spencer decided to do what he did. Now, it was actually not until about 2 months later, on November 27th, that he was charged. And he was charged with second-degree murder and commission of a felony with a firearm. And what the fuck is forgive me, man, I'm cussing so much. What is a commission of a felony with a firearm? What is this ridiculous charge added on top of murder? And I think that by itself shows you just how pedantic the justice system is. All these tiny weird rules, and you could break actually 18 laws by doing one thing. It seems, again, nonsensical, but is indicative of the state that the justice system is in, which is broken. So his attorneys, and good on them for this, which is actually Aaron Castanelli and Michael Kaiser, they actually issued a statement criticizing the prosecution, saying it's actually an injustice to even bring charges in the first place, and good for them for saying that. But a week later, the prosecutors asked the judge, who is Judge Elmore, for a gag order. So a week after the statement gets issued by the prosecution, basically calling by the defense to the prosecution steps it up a notch. And they go, well, instead of letting this become a hot news story, they ask for the judge for a gag order, which in my opinion, I think gag orders in court cases they are egregious. They are egregious to public transparency. And I have no idea. Maybe I could listen to a legal expert who could explain them to me. But in any case I've ever seen one used has always seemingly been nefarious, whether it was in all the cases with Donald Trump, if it was all the case with Jeff Younger, or if it's in this case now, it's seemingly they are always used and pushed and brought out to silence people because they're bringing a case that they know is either on a shaky ground or it's just outright just nefarious by nature. So once they issue this and the judge gets the request from the motion from the prosecution, a verbatim quote is that they wanted the gag order not just on anybody specific or maybe Aaron Spencer himself. The verbatim quote is they wanted a gag order on all of his attorneys and anyone else from saying anything about the case to anyone. That is a verbatim quote from the Arkansas Times. So the prosecution, in response to that, ended up filing a 19-page response. And within 30 minutes after the judge gets this, okay, so understand that the defense writes out a 19-page statement or 19-page paper, basically, to respond to this gag order. Just, I would imagine, probably angry, irritated, throwing all this precedent around of like, there's no precedent here for a gag order. There's no way you can grant this. And again, from the Arkansas Times, 30 minutes after they submitted a 19-page response, the judge granted the gag order. So the judge doesn't even just say an F you, and by not reading it, there's no way you're going to read 19 pages in 30 minutes. He just grants the gag order. Now, once again, this goes in line with the behavior that we are very, 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 very used to seeing from all of these judges, which is what? It's nefarious, it's self-serving, it's enacting their own political biases. There has to be a better control mechanism for if a judge is clearly shown to not just simply be interpreting the law, but enacting a political bias. I mean, I think there's got to be better control mechanisms to get these guys out of here. But again, we saw this with Trump. We saw this with Jeff Younger. We're seeing it now. We were seeing it across the country for all these smaller federal regional courts for things as it comes to deportations and any kind of enactment from Trump policy, executive orders. All of these judges are wielding their power in an attempt to prevent anything from being done, not because they're interpreting the law as such, but because they are largely acting alongside and in alignment with their own political biases. Now, I'll put a stop in there just for a second to catch up on some of these chats here. I feel like I've missed a few of them. We have Eric Julian. Actually, let me get this. I don't have the feature chat on, do I? me get this from Eric Julian. He says, I think you should be the go-to for all things America First, Nick Fuentes. There have been a few times I wanted to message fellow groups about things I missed, don't understand. Oh, for sure. Definitely. That's probably where I'm going to position a lot of the videos, like the one I made about an hour ago. We have from Carl Johansson. He says, that guy should be in prison, but shooting is a little much. It wasn't forcible rape, and she's probably far from innocent. She's 14, not 7. You know, funny enough, that is one of the things I'd actually thought about, which was the whole element of her being in the house. And I would imagine she herself snuck out, not that Michael Fosler broke in, but I didn't vet that. It's just kind of the way I read that almost seemed like maybe there was a bit of a relationship there. Hate even saying that though, but that just goes to show you this kind of how far along we are in the rat utopia experiment. You know, all of these just insane behaviors that you've never seen before. And I think also indicative of that is all of the female teachers who are having, you know, gangbangs with their 12-year-old students. I mean, it's insane. And Tick's writing in that commission are BS charges. It's a felony added on top of a felony. So he's being charged with felony use of a firearm while being felony charged for the shooting. Yeah, it's exactly what I thought. It's an additional charge. They get more leeway with sentencing and things like that. But and then we have Scuderia Bianchi says, installing coilovers while I listen. Yes, nice to see you, brother. I see everybody in here. We do appreciate it very much. So going back to the story, and let me get this featured check, because I don't know why it has like these little lights here, actually. But going back to the featured story here, the community submission story. So we have the judge basically saying, F you. And 30 minutes after they submit this response, he goes, you know what? I will grant this gag order. More than likely, probably because he is politically aligned to be on the prosecution side. Maybe he probably, and think about that, right? We have judges, clearly, obviously, with the guy getting 43 charges on all these grounds and just basically not, and just essentially basically not, what's the word? Forgive me, I lost the word. But anyways, you know, that it is, it's obviously troubling and enacting on their political biases, the judge behaving in such a manner. And again, very, very indicative of everything we've been used to, but he says, F you. And without either side even asking, additionally, on top of that, you have the judge sealing the entire case file. So instead of just getting a gag order on any kind of speech related to the case, the entire case file was sealed and neither side even asked for it. So I think that just shows you the judge is clearly aligned with the left-wing biases. And the direction I was actually going to go before I lost my train of thought was it's clear and obvious that we do have people in these positions of power, namely judges, who for whatever reason are okay with this kind of stuff. I mean, how do you get this situation with Jeff Younger? How do you get all these cases across the nation where you can get up to 40 some charges of child assault and you're walking free still? I mean, there has to be something in the water that's making these judges all give these guys a benefit of the doubt or give them more rope than what they should be allowed, you know, metaphorically speaking. How we got here, I have no idea. How we get here is well beyond me, but I would imagine it also goes in line with everything else also falling apart, which is good men doing nothing, and all that leads to is women doing stuff and bad men doing stuff, and that's not what you want. So luckily, though, the Arkansas Supreme Court, because Aaron Spencer in the defense appealed it to the Arkansas Supreme Court, they struck it down and sent it back. And so that's basically essentially where the case is sitting now. It's gone back and forth for a few different things. And but in the middle of all of this, the story here is that he is running for sheriff while this is all going on. And thank you very much for the super chat here, brother. I appreciate it greatly. He says, the same that insists no certainty exists are the ones that will tell you everything is fine. Just show how hard some are willing to shove their heads in the sand. That is very true. And thank you very much for the donation, brother. I do appreciate that. Now, some of the thoughts that I had will be a bit more free now that I kind of got the story out there. Some of the thoughts that I had in regards to the story in general, well, none of them were good. I'll tell you that. One of the first things that makes me mad about this case is the idea that this guy called it in. That he himself not only called it in on the front end, you know, alerting to his daughter's disappearance, but also alerting them on the back end. knowing that there's a massive chance he's going to get sent to prison for a very long time. I think he knows that. And it's the fact that he's going to be doing it willingly, despite everything else going around, knowing that he more than likely will be the one who serves a sentence, and the guy who was doing all that stuff to his daughter isn't serving any time. I mean, that's not justice. How could you call it that? So in addition to that, you have what I would imagine, I didn't look into this, but I'd imagine he's married and the mother's still around. But a wife is now going to lose her husband for 10, 15, 20 years, maybe 7 or 8 if he gets off. I'd imagine he'll probably get some deal where he only goes 5 to 7 years, but that's still a considerable amount of time, and a lot can happen in that time. And a daughter loses her father. And now, if already we know what the top target of many of these people is fatherless children. They target fatherless children. And there's a famous video, and I forget who had actually done it, but they were talking to one of these predators, and they had asked kind of like, what's your MO? What's your strategy? How did you make these targets? How did you target the people that you actually, violated? And the guy says, first thing, it's when there's no father around. And so now this situation is now the father's not going to be around. And now it seems to be that this female, this girl, his daughter, will now be even more open to that happening again the second time. I mean, hopefully it doesn't happen ever again, but I'm just saying that it now results in a worse situation for the family, right? Finally getting the bad guy out of this girl's life now makes everyone's life in the family worse. Doing the right thing made their lives worse. And this is where we are. This is exactly where we are. I mean, this is complete destruction. And there's no justice in this. The same thing with Daniel Penny. It's the same stupid shit with Daniel Penny. If you have lost your right to defend yourself in this country. Let's just say what it is. You have lost your right to defend yourself in this country. Unless you can explicitly, show every field condition possible, right? You feared for your life beyond a reasonable doubt. But this isn't, you can't even really say sustainable. I mean, on the other side of that, I've been seeing the calls for a lot of females, right? A lot of women asking for, what happened to men? Why aren't men doing more? Why aren't men standing up more? Why aren't men, and it goes on and on and on. Why aren't men doing more yet? And it's like, well, what's the incentive there? Right. I mean, we're getting all these memes now, even if you can just watch, of how, I unfortunately get caught behind a woman at 9:30 p.m. at night. And it's just showing all the crazy things the guy's doing just so, she doesn't turn around by chance and think that like he's some creep or he catches some false allegations. I mean, the ball is in female's court. The ball is in the justice system's court. It's in your guys', the ball's over there. It's up to you guys to stop being the way that you are. It's up to the justice system. And ultimately, it's up to us to infiltrate it and be the judges who should be ruling in these cases. It's up to us to be the lawyers who would decide, oh, actually, we're not prosecuting this at all. A guy's completely in the right. Who would prosecute this? Must be some like disgusting evil person who'd prosecute this. And that's kind of the idea behind the video that was released not too long ago by myself and infiltrating and taking over. But and if we take him at his word, right? Take him at his word, and that is that he felt like there's nothing else he could do. Faced between the choice of continually watching this happen to your daughter, or, and the system do nothing and continually find excuses for this old man of why he needs to be given second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth chance. I think they made it clear to him, this is a father going, do I want to wait until the day where she doesn't come back? Do I want to wait until the day that the cops call me and they tell me where they found her body? Do I want to wait to the day? And you go, no, but on the other side of that is your life will be destroyed. You will be ripped from your family, and the justice system will, in the blink of an eye, you will be forgotten in all of history, and your wife will probably move on. More than likely, given today's scenario, more than likely your wife will be moving on. She'll be with another man by the time you get out. Your daughter might probably fall into even worse without your presence being around. And it's just all around. Every element of this story is just like, man. And I don't know what you would do. Is that what you guys would have done? Would you guys, after you find your daughter for what seemed to be, I think, like the third time after reading through this, would you Would you wait for the cops to show up just so you can see this guy like a revolving door walk into the precinct and come right back out? I mean, I personally have a daughter, and like, I can't. Like, I'm sorry, I can't. I feel the same way as this guy. Like, I'm sorry. You've left me no choice. You've put me in this position, right? And it's like, what's worse, right? What is worse? What's worse, taking almost a definitive loss by knowing if I do this, I'm gone. I'm gone, and I'm basically jeopardizing my entire family, my marriage, everything for this one right thing to do. Or do I just send him back? Do I tolerate like how white men tolerate one more time? And that's kind of the underpinning all of this is society essentially right now is essentially as much as good men are tolerating. I'll save the race aspect. Obviously, that irritates people, but we'll save that for another day. Good men, good men. And the more and more that these good men decide they're not going to tolerate it anymore, I mean, it goes up. The system will go belly up. And I would imagine same thing with like copycats in the way like Luigi Mangione and like copycat serial killers. I would imagine when you get more and more, like say it's like, we get Kyle Rittenhouse and, and then it's like a couple, like a year, a couple of years later, then it's like Daniel Penny. But then it's like maybe say like 8 months after Daniel Penny, Aaron Spencer. And then it's like 6 months after Aaron Spencer, it's like this guy, then 3 months, then 2 months. And the next thing you know, you will see all these guys inspiring each other and they're all looking around and they're going, you know what? I'm not going to tolerate it either. And hopefully that's ultimately what happens. And the one thing I would say too, it seems like a very, very bright spot for Aaron Spencer is that his defense team seems to be on the ball. So I don't know if he's just got a lot of money or his defense is just really good, but props to that. But I mean, I do agree, Hook. At the end of the day, the majority of a lot of this is wrapped up in the race question as well. And the fact that it's one of the most obfuscated conversations, even though we talk about it all the time, no one's talking about actual real substantive things about race. They're just chanting the same old lines. It's the same old rhetoric from Tim Pool and the crew, the conservatards. Like, I'm not, the Democrats are the real, and it's like, dude, we have bigger problems than worrying about whose feelings are hurt. We would like to solve the actual problem. That's going to require talking honestly with each other. And anyone who's unwilling to do that at this point, it's like, you have to be out of the conversation. It's like, it's not even me being like, like race. It's more so like, we need to get these big wigs, like the quartering, like Tim, like many people who fulfill those roles of these influencers. You got to move out of the way. It's like, we're getting dangerously close to my family, and not even dangerously close. There's people in this country right now whose like lives, their families' lives are threatened by the fact that you have a grifter class who is basically gatekeeping to such a degree that, it's just got to get out of the way. One of the biggest barriers to solving problems is this grifter class. This class of people who decide when and what the rhetoric can be and when can it change? When is enough finally enough? When can we start being more radical? It's like, no. The grifter class does not get to decide who can be radical and when's the time to have the conversation. And look at the way that they behave anyways. Nick Fuentes has literally forced the entire conservative movement to literally move 8 steps to the right. And they're all acting like, oh, this is just what happens. It's like, no, brother, this is because this dude screamed at the top of his lungs for as long as he could and stuck through it, being on Rumble and everywhere else. And shout out to the Clippers too. The Clippers did tremendous work on X. He broke through it, and this is the direction we're going. And that's kind of the truth, right? The truth is like this. It's that breath of fresh air. It's like they tried so hard to keep the majority of his talking points and rhetoric out of the mainstream. The moment it broke through, people heard it and they were like, you know what? That does make a lot of sense. No putting the genie back in the bottle from that. Can't. And, and I think the one of the bigger stories here too is obviously the judge, the fact that you go, the prosecution going out of their way to file this 19-page response to this insane gag order, and then he basically gives them the bird and says, you know what, this is happening anyways. I mean, dude, F you. Judge Elmore, by the way, Judge Elmore there in Lenoka County, Arkansas, F you. And, you know, to go back, that is why the message has to be, I'm not sure what the race of the judge is. Hook, that's a good question. That's why the message has to be getting our guys in there, right? It has to be our people getting in there. And it's not just because, you know, it's this power surge and it's against Israel. It's because even in situations like this, the biggest boon to Aaron Spencer would have been someone in his corner being a judge. Someone who's not a conservatard, someone who's not a raging progressive, someone who's not a shit lib. Our guy. And even if our guy means someone, you know, 2 steps to right of Charlie Kirk, maybe just in Candace Owens territory, that is still vastly preferable to the racially cucked conservative group, the mainstream conservatives, and the left wing and its majorative. Even if it's a conservative black man, that is preferable to this rampant, just one-sided nature of leftism just dominating. Is it a woman? Judge Barbara Elmore? I kind of had that suspicion, actually. It's just a blight. It's a blight. And obviously a sign of judgment on this nation that so many women are ruling. And I'd kind of made that point too. How many women are in the Trump administration? How many of his appointments and cabinet picks are all females? And how much of that is, do you think they do a good job, or do you think Trump just likes having women he likes to look at around him? It's like, brother, we're trying to run a country, man. This isn't a golf club. This isn't some kind of just, you know, happy-go-lucky vacation for you. You are running the country. You are the president of the United States. I do not care if you want to look at women or not. I don't care if you want a button to press for Diet Coke. I care that you are acting for buying of the people. And he's not. So that's kind of it for the Aaron Spencer story. Obviously, you know, just anger in 6 different ways, but the bad judge, the bad prosecution, the parallel there to Daniel Penny and the linkage to why so many men, you don't see more men doing that, is because they're not willing to take that on. And think about that for a second too. Like imagine if you are a husband, you have a wife and you have children at home. You are out in public, you see a random woman getting assaulted. You go, do I want to make my family suffer to help this random woman I don't know? The easy answer there is no. No. As long as it will continue to be treated as if random men cannot help bystanders and strangers and random passerbys in life-threatening situations, then forget it. The criminal will always win, and we'll figure it out in court. We'll get the body. You know, the body's going to be cold. Sorry to the parents, but this is the way it has to be. You know, everybody needs all the facts first. Everybody knows. Everybody knows instinctively, intuitively, you know, what the real problems are. It's how long are we going to continually wait to actually say it, is kind of where we're at now. So, anyways, we have some other stories here. We have Zoran Mamdani. This guy is just a character. This guy is just a character, man. You know, he's always in the news, but never really for anything good. You know, as Nick had said, it kind of stops and starts with his Israel moment. That was one of the bigger videos I actually even made on this channel. Was him being like one of like 30 people in a mayoral debate, besides a black guy who said he'd go to Jamaica, who said who wasn't going to make their first trip as mayor to Israel. And people seemingly could not understand why that was basically escalating him into the highest echelons of of politics. Anthony Tony asking who died. The person who died was Michael Foster, a 67-year-old child predator who was killed by Aaron Spencer to protect his 14-year-old daughter. But moving off of that, though, back to Zoran Mamdani, the New York Post breaks this story. And the story is supposedly, as I'm reading into it, I just see a bunch of headlines. I'm going, ooh, wow. Oh, that's crazy. Ooh, dang, wow. And it's a nothing burger. I'm going to be honest. This Zohran Mamdani taking illegal foreign funds for his mayoral campaign is a nothing burger. I don't know if I'm the first to say that, but I'm definitely saying it. So the New York Post breaks his story, and I look into some of the details. Get this. His campaign raised $6.1 million. And I believe all private donations, I'm pretty sure. $6.1 million. You know how much is being designated as illegal foreign funding? $13,000. So 13 grand of the 6 million that this what this New York Post story is blowing up over. And of that 13,000, they've already returned 6,000. They sent them back because they're following the rules. Once they were notified that it came from outside the United States or from a non-US citizen, they're sending it back. The only issue is there's just like a few of them they've not been able to return yet out of like 88 of 170. So it was like 170 of his 54,000 contributions came from the donors outside the United States. And they returned 92 of those. So there's 88 of the donations left to be sent back out, which totals around like $7,200 in total. And when you look at the numbers as a whole, you go, okay. And some of them are actually public. And of those people who had to illegally return the money was his mom. His mom was one of those people. It's such a joke. I hate journalism. I hate the news. I hate media. I hate politics. I hate all of it. There may come a day in the future where I just look at a news story and I'm just going to go, I'm going to do movie reviews. Welcome to Atlas Thug, that we're doing movie reviews. This is my anime review channel. I like Naruto. Like, dude, it is aggressive how much the news is manipulated. And let's explain some of this and why I'm going this direction. Because I'm no fan of Zohran Mamdani. I don't want this Indian Muslim running anything in America, whether it was a hot dog stand or it was the mayor of New York City. You know, the guy eats barefoot, wears suits backwards. Like, dude. Okay. So now that we have it, now that we've established that this was very, 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 very minuscule on the bigger picture, isn't it just so convenient? Isn't it just so convenient that we are worried about less than, 10 grand from people like Zohran's mother and James Furland, some shitlib from Australia, than the overwhelming and continually defying records level of foreign influence from Israel? Where was New York Post's story about the $4 million geofencing campaign being done in 4 states on the West Coast? Guess what? I looked for it, doesn't exist. New York Post has nothing covering that. So really, we have a featured headline story from the New York Post about 13 grand, of which 5,000 of that 13 grand has already been returned. Where's their story about the $4 million geofencing campaign that caused, for the first time in history, a FARA filing from Israel? From Show Faith by Works, LLC. And so again, I will say it again. I'm no fan of Zohran Mamdani. I don't think there should be any foreign involvement, period. I don't think foreigners should even be allowed in the country. I think if you get within 30 feet, they turn the mode on, they send the gators, and the 50 BMG starts firing from the nest. But it's very hypocritical, isn't it? Wow, it's very, wow, But people are running with this. I'm sure Tim Pool and the Daily Wire are going to go, wow, isn't it crazy, all this dark money that's somehow entering into our facility? Isn't that? It's so hypocritical. And it's becoming such a retarded joke that I really can't buy anymore that people are just unaware. And the thing is like, this is a Christian nation. Where's all the Where's all of our pro-Christian PACs, right? Where's all of our political action committees that are all pro-Christian? Where's all of these Christian political action committees that are all anti all of this foreign influence? And what's up, everybody who recently joined? And this is an aside, but Sneeko and Myron Gaines had a short little spat, I guess you could say, debate, if you will. It's like less than like 7-8 minutes because they had went live together. And what are they debating about? Well, it's on similar grounds, right? It's on this Muslim aspect. And Myron makes the point that to Sneeko, like, you as a Muslim, you are a guest as a Muslim in this country. And it was just sad to watch Sneeko do these ridiculous mental gymnastics I mean, like at one point Sneeko said, well, technically by that definition, don't, like, Protestants worship Israel. So doesn't that mean like that Christians are, I mean, just going above and beyond to bring up the same tried old atheist Reddit talking points that have no actual weight, and just and Myron with half the knowledge and doing, in my opinion, a poor job anyways, is cooking Sneeko on this. And you just think about it, you go to, let's think of, I don't know, Saudi Arabia, or insert any Muslim Islamic nation in there, right? And you go and it's like, okay, it's in the desert, right? And they're, Arabian Nights is playing in the background or some shit. And, and every 3 hours you hear something that tells them to get on their knees and pray on their rug. And everybody's wearing a turban. You can't go two blocks without some gay person getting thrown off a rooftop. And, but it says somewhere in their constitution, somewhere in like their paper, something. It says freedom of religion or something to that effect. And and imagine using that. You use that as the argument of why it's not a Muslim nation. Imagine going and walking past all of the practicing Muslims, all of the Islamic, everything Islam that's breathed into the buildings, that's breathed into their artwork, that's breathed into their culture, and going, well, it does say on their piece of paper that they have freedom of religion, so technically it's not a Muslim. You are an idiot. You are retarded. And it's the same argument with Christian nationalism. It's like, so you're talking about the 90+% white Protestant Christians that were majoritively in this nation for hundreds of years. And because it says somewhere in there in that constitution, they got freedom of religion or something, separation of church and state or something, and no one can ever accurately tell you what that is. Anyone who's not Christian will always give you the Reddit tier definition of that, and they're always wrong. Then all of that, they'll ignore all of that. No, this is a secular nation. Dude, you can't make this shit up. There are just some things you can't convince people. Some people will never be convinced by the argument. And I think that's actually the travesty, where with everything going on, that's the travesty. And the travesty is, if more and more and more people, especially politicians, begin to recognize that the argument isn't what convinces people, it's physicality, it's protest, it's violence, it's threats, it's over. And funny enough, this thought process is explored in what I believe is called 0 Day. It's a mini series on Netflix. Highly recommend people watching it. I will spoil it. So spoiler alert for anybody who wants to watch it. But that's basically the premise. Now, I won't spoil the majority of the movie, but that is the premise. The premise is that a group of politicians basically colluded together across the aisle because they all collectively recognized that no one was winning, that arguments weren't changing hearts and minds anymore. So they basically institute a cyber attack. But it gets out of hand and it goes way beyond what they wanted to do. But that's the point, is that if everyone in the room can recognize that there's no point in talking, there's no point in me saying anything, then we'll just go to fisticuffs. I'll just hold my hand over the nuke. Because if it gets to the point that everyone in the room recognizes that, it's chaos. That's what Civil War II is. It puts us into a new dynamic which is, maybe it could go to complete, dominion, but it never goes that way. Typically, the fighting ensues until one side decides it's had enough. And they'll make concessions, and it will change. And we'll see from there. But that is the path we are on, right? That's the path we're on. You can see it with Aaron Spencer, right? Daniel Penny, Aaron Spencer. It's going to be more and more and more and more and more recurring and more often that you're going to see men just not tolerate it, take justice into their own hands. And I think you're going to see more of that too, because I would wager as the younger generation continues to step away from marriage, continues to not even want to be married, continues to see no purpose and have anything long term because they basically see their lives and dreams and futures as forfeit. What are they going to have to lose? And so as these younger kids get older and older and are further and further away, or basically kind of locked out of having a long-term life, maybe they're someone who's just like a crazy, raging, incel, things are going to begin to change and rather rapidly. The only question is will they institute enough of this censorship and control mechanisms like a Patriot Act or like these NVEs, right? What do they say? Nihilistic violent extremists. That was like the tag the FBI wanted to go along with. After, instead of naming trans people explicitly, which they should, they went the different tag. They went with nihilistic violent extremist, NVE. And what does that do? It leaves the door open to that definition to also including, anybody from the red pill or like the incel community. It leaves it open to basically another orchestration of some level of a Patriot Act that would rip you out, throw you like January 6th, and basically, here you are, you have a sub-threat category of a domestic terrorist, and boom. Just like that, you have no rights. But I mean, how long can you run a country like that? Not very long. You can actually, if it was not in America, you could probably get away with that for a lot longer, if not for an extended period of time. But because it's America and because there's well over 380 million guns in this country, it's not going to last very long like that. And both sides will take damage. I don't want that to be the case, but they've made it clear that your concerns will fall on deaf ears. You said you want no more foreign influence. They said, okay, F you, here's 2 million to Israel. You said they want deportations. They said, hey, F you, we'll sell citizenship for $1 million. It's every element. They are either actively acting as if they're not hearing anything, they don't have their pulse on the room at all, or that it's not a problem. Just ignoring the base. And then not to mention, again, like this major thing that underpins a lot of it for even normies is all the Epstein stuff. And this lack of credibility, like no one believes in anything anymore. It's so hollow and heartless, and it's very sad at the end of the day. But what did you expect? What did you expect when everyone knows all the details about Jeffrey Epstein, and then you come in, Mr. President, and it basically is all but confirmed that you were involved somehow? Let alone all of your nonstop glazing of Israel. Wow, that makes you look so much better. I'm so done with him. I'm done with anybody who's supporting him anymore at this point. If you have people who are still in the position of trying to lie to themselves about what the Trump administration is, especially after today, and we're about to move into it, they are either retarded, they're part of the problem, or they're getting paid to be part of the problem. There's no more excuses at this point. I refuse it. I do not accept it anymore. You either America first or you hate this country. That's it. There's no in between. Nothing in between. And that's what we're getting ready to move into, actually, Tex. I'm glad that you had said that. We're going to move into this disgusting, it was like a glazing competition. Who can glaze Israel more? And it was a competition with Trump and himself versus himself every other 5 minutes. Dude, they're going to make me support Hamas. I'm not even lying to you, dude. We're getting to that point. So, a smaller thing of note that I'll draw attention to before we move into the Israel stuff is the fact that Max Blumenthal did backpedal. So I'll put this up here before we get to the Trump Loving Israel press conference, because I think this is important for anybody who had missed it. Let me move here. Yes, Christ is king, as always. Lord Jesus, if you hear me, I need some more patience. We need some help down here. Where was the slide at? Here we go. So this is what we have. And this is Max Blumenthal. For anybody not familiar, that is who is on the left-hand side. Max Blumenthal in conjunction with him. I think he might have wrote the article himself, but I think Candace sourced it pretty heavily. So he's a journalist, and he wrote for the Gray Zone, which is the article that broke the story that Kirk was facing backlash from pro-Israel donors. And you know what he says? Max Blumenthal has backpedaled completely. Max Blumenthal says that there's no evidence to suggest Israel participated in Kirk's assassination. Now, this even blew me away because I was wondering what pressure does he have to say that? I feel like he's not been a target. Candace has actually been getting more of that pressure. And funny enough, you will see, and I'm not sure who's depicted over on this side, probably just some other Middle East guy who shouldn't be in this country. You could even see he is shocked. He's taken aback. He's like, what was just said to me? So here is a listen to that. I'll make sure it doesn't blow anybody's eardrums out, but this is it.
That's a stretch for me because that would be pretty.
Well, I didn't imply that. It's just weird.
Yeah, well, of course it's weird. I mean, these people are freaks, and that speaks to Josh Hammer being a pro-Israel fanatic, so he's going to post weird things. But to tie that to Charlie murder,
for the purpose of Aaron's edification and YouTube, you remember like it's like saying like the vaccine works, but no, it's there's no evidence that Israel participated in this assassination of Charlie Kirk. Okay, we're not saying that. It's just weird. It's also weird that there was a.
Thank you, House. His name is Aaron Mate. So many guys named Aaron. But you can see his reaction here, right? Like he's clearly like, I don't think he was expecting Blumenthal to say this. And so I think it kind of puts him in a very puzzling position. We're not getting into it right now. I know we got Candace stands and we got Nick stands in here. We're not doing that today, boys and girls. But it is noteworthy, just for anybody who had not seen it, that he did indeed say this. And obviously this is going to be getting clicked. Aaron Mate, of course, I should have known. But we'll go ahead and see what his reaction is to this, because obviously his face is quite puzzled.
1998 film by Brian De Palma called Snake Eyes, in which on September 10th, a U.S. Defense Secretary who is about to stop a corrupt arms deal is assassinated by a Palestinian patsy controlled by military operatives. And his name is Charlie Kirkland.
And that's basically what I just wanted to say. So he compares it. So he basically compares the way that he had categorized his story is in the same light of how weird it is that this one random movie about Charlie Kirkland and the Palestinian patsy is also weird. And it's like, that's seemingly the opposite of what you want to do. Typically, and again, a lot of the pushback people in like Candace and many others like Ian Carroll, a lot of the pushback that Nick gives them is, if you're going to address the question of Israel, if you're going to address the JQ, what you cannot have beside it on the left and on the right in your series volumes A, B, and C, what can't go Israel's volume B, A can't be the moon landing is fake, and C can't be the, what's the word? What was the other one I had in mind? Flat Earth theory, right? It's like you have to know your optics. You have to know the audience. And when you put it in those kind of, and you wedge it in between there, and obviously it loses its bit kind of like its seriousness. People will see it in the same light as other easily dismissed theories and well-known ones at that. But just wanted to get that for anybody, who had not seen that, because that kind of just blew me away that he had said that. And then he goes right into his explanation of it I'm like, why are you trying to damage your own work? Like, did you get paid? Like, he more than likely, he definitely got paid. These people aren't trustworthy at all. So the reason why I brought this up, and we're moving into Israel, well, again, that I'm Israel 365. It seems like every topic I'm ever discussing, it has Israel involved with it. But again, that's American politics, because this is the United States of Israel, not America. As of, 1913, essentially. So Trump loves Israel. That's been well established, but the reason why we're talking about Trump and Israel today isn't because of how much he loves it and would love to be an Israeli citizen. It's because he had addressed the Knesset. So Trump had traveled to address the Knesset, and the reason is because we are getting further along with the peace accord, or the peace deal, whatever you want to call it. And they want to celebrate the beginning of that. The end of the fighting in Gaza. They want to celebrate the Hamas releasing the final 20 remaining hostages. Trump, however, also had asked the Israeli president, Isaac Herzog, I think it's Isaac Herzog, to pardon Netanyahu for his charges of bribery, breach of trust, and fraud. And this isn't the first or second time. He had actually made previous statements about this in Truth Social posts around in June, and this was around in the same light of during when the Iran conflict was bubbling up, or during it. I can't remember actually at this point. It's been a minute. But Trump literally said, it's cigars and champagne. Who cares? As a verbatim quote from the Hill, from Donald Trump. And the reason why he's asking for Netanyahu to get a pardon is, well, Netanyahu is set to take the witness stand Wednesday as part of the trial. And many of you probably already know, one of the elements that has been talked about at length, whether it's on Piers Morgan or whether it's on insert any political show here, one of the elements that has been a theory for why the war has been drug out for so long is that because they were willing to wait for Netanyahu to be out of a state of war before they brought charges against him. Meaning, as long as they're in conflict, he's not going to have charges brought against him, which thus provides a negative incentive for Netanyahu to keep the conflict going so that he doesn't have to stand trial. And that's one of the things that many people have pointed out about an incentive for why the Gaza conflict has remained for so long. So then there was also a moment in the chambers where I think it was two different Israelis came in to make noise for Palestine, basically showing that there still is difference of opinion in the Knesset, although very, very minimal. And when they went in, they got expelled in short order, and they get sent out of the chambers to thunderous applause. And that is because the majority of everybody in the Israeli government are all on the same team. Now, we got some, I'm telling you, awful moments. Not even just like, oh, that's bad, like, oh, that's cringe. I'm talking like Dave Smith repeatedly quote tweeting on X going, what the fuck is this? And I'm telling you, I've seen that caption 10 times. And this is all shortly coming out about as a few hours ago. And so let me get a couple of these actually pulled up here. But beyond that, though, the last thing that he did say before we come over to some of these smaller pieces is, wow, is that do I believe in fake Freemason outer space? That's funny. I don't believe in the moon landing, but what should I say to that? It's one of those things that I'm not versed enough to give you an opinion. Besides, I don't know. It doesn't really mean much to me right now. If someone could show why it would matter and why it would mean so much and why I should know and have an opinion on it, then sure. That's just a side point there. One last thing before we get to the crazy moments is he once again brought up Iran. And this is why I think that this is important. So Donald Trump addresses Iran again. And this is important because we're not out of the danger zone as it relates to war with Iran at the behest of Israel. So what does he say when he's talking to Iran? Well, he placed the ball in their court with the usual rhetoric. Denounce the terrorists. You guys are the cause of all the death in the Middle East. More of the same. But once again saying that maximum pressure will be brought if a truce isn't reached. And I say that just to let you know, once again, that we are not out of the woods yet. We are not. And I would expect that probably the next major development will be if they're out of focus and not concerned with Gaza and they know all the eyes and CENTCOM and U.S. troops are on the ground there, I guarantee their attention will then be focused back on Iran, and we'll probably see some more intelligence, some more crazy moments of Indians being arrested in Iran, maybe possibly some more decapitation strikes. Who knows? But that seems to be the direction that we're going. And again, it will continue to go because that's just what Israel is, a warmongering country on the mission for their great aim of greater Israel. And then if you tie that to Judaism, it gets a lot more worse from there. So the big moment, we'll start there. The big moment that's got everybody going WTF is while speaking in Israel, Trump suggested that the move to the embassy to Jerusalem was a promise to the Adelsons. But not just that, he also makes mentions of how they've made more visits to the White House than anyone else. But the part that's got everybody going, what the hell? Is he literally gives for like a minute and a half, he talks about how she refused to answer when he asked her point blank which country she loves more, America or Israel. This, ladies and gentlemen, is your president of the United States. So we have this here from Keith Woods, and this is the clip. We are going to watch it in its entirety, about 3 minutes long, but right there, the caption is essentially everything that I had said it as. This is your president glazing the country and basically flexing and bragging to everybody that Miriam Adelson controls him. But here we go. Let's see if I can find this here. There we go.
Broken promises from many other American presidents. You know that. They kept promising. I never understood it until I got there. There was a lot of pressure put on these presidents. It was put on me too, but I didn't yield to the pressure. But every president for decades said, we're going to do it. The difference is I kept my promise and officially recognized the capital of Israel and moved the American embassy to Jerusalem. Isn't that right, Miriam? Look at Miriam. She's back there. Stand up, Miriam. Stand up. Miriam and Sheldon would come into the office. They'd call me. He'd call me. I think they had more trips to the White House than anybody else I could think of. Look at her sitting there so innocently. She's got 60 billion in the bank. 60 billion. And I think she's saying no more. And she loves Israel, but she loves it, and they would come in, and her husband was a very aggressive man, but I loved him. He was a very aggressive, very supportive of me. And he'd call up, can I come over and see you? I say, Sheldon, I'm the president of the United States. It doesn't work that way. He'd come in, we would do. But they were very responsible for so much, including getting me thinking about Golan Heights, which is probably one of the greatest things to ever happen to Israel. Miriam, stand up, please. She really is. I mean, she loves this country. She loves this country. Her and her husband are so incredible. We miss him so dearly. But I actually asked her, I'm going to get her in trouble with this, but I actually asked her once, I said, so Miriam, I know you love Israel. What do you love more, the United States or Israel? She refused to answer. That might mean Israel, I must say. We love you. Thank you, darling.
And, ultimately, Anthony Tony is correct. This is old news. We know that the Adelsons love Israel. The issue is just how forward-facing and overt it is now, despite all of the clear pushback, the clear anger and frustrations from many in the MAGA base, many outside it, of the clear and obvious conflict of interest as it relates to the hundreds of millions of dollars in donations that the Adelsons have given Donald Trump in what looks and appears to be, not even looks and appears, what clearly is Trump and Trump's administration doing things all at the behest of Israel. Not for America, not in America's interest, but for Israel's interest. And then so at a later moment, in getting even more insane, is he lets it know that his sister has been converted to Judaism. It is, or not his sister, his daughter. Forgive me, why did I say his sister? So this is from True Blue Rebel, but he basically, and let me actually zoom out a little bit. It was reported, and still is multiplied, it's conflicted constantly, that Trump himself had converted to Judaism. And I believe that was actually back in like 2017 when that report was out, but many people said they debunked it. And anytime I look it up, everyone says like, no, this isn't true, but I don't trust a news publication as far as I can throw it, which isn't very far. And then I began to really think about, so after I saw this, I was like, oh, okay, so his daughter has converted. Interesting. His daughter converted to Judaism. Like, that's not a brag at all. It's not a brag at all to say that you've renounced Jesus Christ. That's a horrible and disgusting thing. And I hope she can find it in herself to repent and come back to where she should be. That once again, and this is like the third or fourth time we've had this, Trump lets it be known that he wants to make it to heaven, or that he's talking about heaven openly, which I think you really would only be talking about in terms of, am I going to get to heaven? I don't think I'm going to get to heaven. Those are things you talk about when you feel like, one, you're about to die, or two, you are like very depressed. You're like in a very dark space. You're thinking like, what's going to happen to me like end times? And I think it's a desperate plea of a man who knows he's committed great evil. But we'll get to that. We'll go to the daughter talking about, or Trump talking about how his daughter has renounced Christianity. So let's go to this one first here. It's about 1.5 minutes long from True Bell Rebel.
And let me also give a very special thanks to someone who truly loves Israel. In fact, loves it so much that my daughter converted. My daughter converted. I didn't know this was going to happen. And Ivanka's here.
And you can see them cheering and clapping. That's not a brag by any means, but I do think that if we know that, and that wasn't confirmed beforehand, that was the first time I'm hearing of that, I think that's more in line with a possible conversion of Trump some years ago that has basically just kind of gone under the radar, but I think most people kind of would pick up on. He at least has the appearance that he has converted over to Judaism. And yeah, exactly what Misnomer just said. It's a special kind of evil to convert these days. Where's my future chat at? Put that up there. Absolutely spot on, man. And so, on top of all of that, he's bragging. He's bragging that he's got what's it called? He's bragging about all the weapons deals, which many people are just basically seeing as like, this is an admission. Like, this is an admission that you have a hand in the genocide that has taken place, the ethnic cleansing of the Palestinians in Gaza. America's name's on that. And no, not even just like, oh, haha, funny. I mean, literally, how many bombs had Nikki Haley on them? How many bombs had Charlie Kirk written on them? How many bombs had Chrissy Noem written on them? How many bombs? And that's what America is. America is the empire. America sells bombs, so other kind of halfway first world countries can obliterate 5-year-old children with them. And that's America. That is America. Because apparently it's and some of them signed it themselves, like I think Nikki Haley was one that signed it herself, and like, what a disgusting human being. It's like, even if you agreed, right? Even if you agreed with the reasoning for why it should be happening, and even if it was for like a grown man, a militant man, it's like, there still should not be any kind of enjoyment taken from the fact that there's ongoing conflict and people are throwing their lives away. And we're on the sidelines, remotely watching on X, scrolling through Twitter, and it's like, it doesn't happen here because we sold all of our weapons over there, so they can do it to themselves with our stuff, and then we get more money, and then every other country gets worse off for it. And then, funny enough, if we're running out of people to sell weapons to, well, the CIA goes and finds a country and destabilizes it, throws it into turmoil, and then calls them all terrorists, and we go do it again. Like, when Hassan says he hates the country, he says it because he's fucking retarded. When I say I hate America, I say it because I fucking mean it for the things and the evils we've committed. Not because I hate America as an idea, but I hate what it's become. And so if that's leftist as me, so be it, dude. But I take no enjoyment from the fact that we are the American empire and we have crushed many, 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 many families who struggle to even get drinking water that day. That is disgusting. That is evil. And that by no means is anything to brag about whatsoever. It bothers me to an extreme degree. One of the last things we will go to is there's a new ad. There's a new ad, and from who? Well, our lovely friends over at AIPAC. Yes, they are exceedingly more and more desperate, and we'll take a look at their new ad, and it is just, it's just a big lie. And it's almost kind of sad that they don't have anybody who can do any better than what they're doing, especially given the fact of how much money they have. But here it is. So this is this new ad. And let me put this on screen. But again, this is from Dave Smith. Again, like what the, I don't think it's going to work. But here is the advertisement. It's about 1.5 minutes long. And you guys tell me if you want to go drop on your knees and go glaze Israel after this.
Let's talk about AIPAC.
Today, AIPAC.
On Capitol Hill, AIPAC.
AIPAC. You may have heard our name, but how much do you really know about AIPAC? AIPAC is an American organization that works to strengthen the U.S.-Israel relationship. This partnership advances America's interests and democratic values.
This is how. How does helping Israel help? Like, it's just like, come on, dude. And it's like, you can't even go, you see this, right? How much do you know about AIPAC? AIPAC is an American organization. Like, dude, give me a break, man. Like, I'm telling you, it's when I see stuff like this, I'm not even joking with you. I sit there and I go, I think I'm going to start a Pokemon YouTube channel, dude. I think I'm going to, you know what? You guys, everyone can fend for themselves. I quit. Just kidding, because if even people like me want to quit, then everybody probably wants to quit. But here's the rest of it.
That works to strengthen the U.S.-Israel relationship. This partnership advances America's interests and democratic values and helps keep Israel safe.
It advances America's interests by helping keep Israel safe. Dude, what are we on, bro? Who is this for? But that's the point. This is what I meant. This is what I meant earlier in my video. This is what you're competing against. You're competing against large multi-million-dollar corporations that only have to appeal to the most retarded person in the room. And that is such a challenge, man. Especially when we don't have all this money flying in.
5 million members are U.S. citizens, Democrats and Republicans from every part of the country who urge our elected leaders to enact pro-Israel policies. This includes expanding America's defense partnership with Israel, supporting life-saving security assistance, confronting Iran and its terror proxies.
Dude, it's just, these are all things that would help Israel, dude. You can't. Just because you say something doesn't make it true.
And promoting peace and normalization. Being pro-Israel is good policy, and AIPAC members make sure it's good politics, too.
Dude, they have literally no argument. They just have to call it good. I'm not even gonna joke with you. I only watched the first like 15 seconds before I put this in the outline today. This is worse than what I could have imagined. Do it because it's good. And why is it good? Because it has good politics. And why are the politics good? Well, because we said so. Dude. Oh, Lord have mercy, man. I don't know if we're gonna make it.
We raise money to help elect pro-Israel candidates for Congress from both parties. And we take the political fight to our opponents, helping defeat anti-Israel candidates running for the House or Senate. AIPAC is leading the fight in Washington to secure the future of the U.S.-Israel relationship. The actions of pro-Israel Americans today will help determine the...
Because what's more American than holding up two flags? Make sure you hold the foreign flag ahead of your actual flag too. Make sure you wave this one.
Today will help determine the future of this bond and the fate of both countries.
All right, I can't. I'm not even going to watch the final couple of seconds of that. I can't do it. I can't do it. And that's where we are, you know, and but they push it out because it works. And somebody who said Palantir AI probably did. It was probably built front to back with Palantir AI. It did look a little bit weird. I would imagine there's AI that was used in there. It did. I don't care. I don't even care if they work for Hamas. If a presidential candidate just would put one thing on the ballot and it was to ban all foreign money funneling anything, period, I'd vote for him, dude. I don't even care what the other policies are. If they seriously ran on a ticket that would eliminate all foreign influence forever, yeah, I'm a vote. And done. Signed. Well, unless it's a woman, then I will not be voting. But we have to get this foreign influence out. Have to. And the reason why I wanted to go with this and highlight all of that before I went back to this final one here, because this is just audio only, but it's still kind of just like, it's dark, is because while Trump was on his way to Israel, he once again let it known that he really wants to get into heaven, but this time it's actually gotten worse. Previously, he was talking about how he wants to get into heaven and like he hopes that he can do good things to be able to get into heaven. And that's not what he's saying anymore. It's taken a more dark tone since then. So this is audio only. And this is from Nick Sortorby. This is the original poster of this audio. It's about 30 seconds long. And this is audio taken from Air Force One. The question I have before we play this, though, is I would like to know who and why, like who recorded this? Why did they record it? How did it get published? And because it seems almost like a publicity stunt in a way. But here's this audio.
A little cute. I don't think there's anything going to get me in heaven. Okay, I really don't. I think I'm not maybe heaven bound. I may be in heaven right now as we fly in Air Force One. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to make heaven, but I've made life a lot better for a lot of people. And you know, as an example, had the election of 2020 not been rigged, you would have millions of people living just in Russia, Ukraine alone. That would have never happened, and it didn't happen for 4 years. A little.
Yeah. And Anthony Tony, absolutely spot on. The only way to heaven is through Jesus Christ. That's it, period. No other way. Jesus Christ. He is the way, the truth, and the life. Nobody gets to the Father except through him. And he would know that if he was, I don't know, even halfway of a semblance of a Christian, but he is not. And that brings us to the end of what would probably be this episode. Is we are Christians. This is a Christian nation. It needs to be led by Christians. The judges in this nation need to be Christian judges. The lawyers in this nation need to be Christian lawyers. Hell, the bakers of the cake at the store I go to need to be Christian. We have let the lie and the misconception of the freedom of religion and the separation of church and state run rampant too long. We have allowed the Department of Education to poison and indoctrinate our kids to such a pathetic and misunderstanding. It has gone on too long. This is a Christian nation. If Trump wants to continue to have any honor or legacy, he needs to convert to Christianity. He needs to repent for all the evils and ills that he has done. And if anything, all of that comes off to me that he knows exactly. His heart has been convicted by Jesus Christ. He just needs to do the right thing. It might be tough. It might suck. And he may be assassinated for it. But Lord have mercy, there is nothing more important to seek out than Jesus in this life. Nothing. And that's where I'll end today's episode. Thank you very much, guys. With a lot of this new stuff I'm doing and the new posting schedule and trying to get more content out there, these lives will probably be a lot shorter than what they used to be, but it's because I'm trying to make this happen. But with that, I appreciate you guys greatly. It's always a pleasure. Christ is King, always. Support Kash Patel. Ban Pam Bondi from public life. All women need to go back into the kitchen. And men need to step up. No more lying to ourselves. Hope you guys have a good rest of your day. Stay blessed, stay safe, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care.
Get up and get out. Get out. Get out. I have a question for you.
Say Christ is Lord. Say Christ is Lord. Say it. You say Christ is Lord. Get out. Christ